Yeah, I just before we get into this week and our game coming up this Sunday in Chicago, I definitely wanted to just take a moment and touch on what occurred on Monday night with Damar Hamlin. This is my first time, getting a chance to speak with you since that happened. It's been an incredibly tough 36 hours for our league, and from my perspective, just want to continue to express our concern and our support. Everyone in our building is constantly having Damar on their minds and continuing to pray and put our thoughts towards hopefully some good news and his full recovery. Anytime that something like that happens, it is so rare in our league, but it puts a lot of things in perspective, not only for our players, but our coaches. I think it did the same thing for fans and media alike, about what these players risk when they go step in between the white lines, and the love they have of this game and what it means to them to be teammates, and the brotherhood that exists in this NFL. I think has been on full display since what occurred. And I want to take a moment and just commend Sean and Zach, both head coaches, the other night, how they handled it, the leadership that they showed in incredibly difficult circumstances. I think the medical response and all the systems that are put into place, the over 30 medical personnel for a variety of different emergency responses are in place on game day. In the event such a type of emergency like that occurs, and there's just a lot of people that hopefully get recognized for the way they handled it in that moment when the time is right. But as of right now, all of our thoughts and all of our emotions and prayers and intentions are for Damar, his family, and the Buffalo Bills organization during this time, and we'll continue to hope that we do get good news and continue to get good news, however we can. As difficult it is to transition from that, I do want to just update you guys on a couple things, with our roster and some injuries. Both Austin Schlottman and Brian O'Neill, we placed on IR yesterday from medical tests and things that continue to be evaluated with Brian. It was determined he actually, in addition to the calf injury, it led to a partially torn Achilles. It is something that he will require surgery to fix, and then is expected to make a full recovery, as well as Austin Schlottman's injury, will also required surgery as well. And so both those guys will be getting surgery as soon as possible so they can be on the road to, getting back and getting healthy as soon as possible. But both those players are on injured reserve. We did sign Greg Mance, who's been in our building for the last couple days and doing a great job trying to get caught up to speed if he were to be needed to step in any capacity, as well as Bobby Evans to our practice squad for some O-line depth as well. Player I have a history with, and excited to have Bobby and Greg available to us. So as hard as it is to transition to, we take on a very tough Chicago team, on the road, NFC North divisional games on the road. There's a lot for our team to still play for, in addition to getting the taste of last Sunday's performance out of our mouth with a great week of preparation and having that translate to our performance. We've had a lot of evaluation and critical evaluation of where we're at as a team, both the good and the things that we can improve on, and look forward to hitting the grass today with our team over the next 2 or 3 days and preparing our team accordingly.
We'll start with Joe and then Dave.
Yes, Kevin, obviously you are going to talk to the team about the Damar situation, or maybe you have already. How are you going to address this? That, there might be some fear, there might be some anxiety. Is it your plan to just be as open and honest as you possibly can?
Yeah, I have had a couple opportunities so far Joe. First being, I immediately was able to send a message out to all of our players and coaches on Monday night in the aftermath of kind of what took place, and first and foremost, I'll let them understand that how I understand how hard that has to be to watch as an NFL player, knowing one of your brothers in this league, regardless of team, these guys are all look at each other as part of one, as part of the brotherhood of playing in the NFL. I was fortunate enough to consider myself part of that as well as a former player. So I wanted them to know how much I was aware of what they may be going through. That all of us collectively were going to be thinking about Damar and having our emotions and thoughts and prayers with him. And that there's resources available, even in our organization, for not only our players, our coaches, but their families, the different aspects that any one individual may have with processing something like this. I thought it was really important. We just got out of a team meeting where I kind of emphasized that as well again, and talked about, our thoughts as an organization and my understanding of where our players may be at as they process. So we just want to be there for them. Their mental health, their emotional health is very, very important to me and our entire organization. So we just want to make sure that they understand both that the resources are available to them, and then also I did want to educate them on some of the things that are that we do have at our games, at all NFL games, from a medical personnel standpoint, and the type of planning and response that is in place in the event of an incredible tragedy like that.
Kevin, with O'Neal and the Achilles, will that recovery rehab stretch into next season at all? And then, so just quick second question, if there's any chance of Blake Brandel starting to come back for the playoffs.
Yes, there is. First and foremost, there is a very good chance we'll get Blake back. He's done an excellent job in his recovery, and we thought when he got that injury, Dave, it would be right around that 4-week mark, which allowed us to use that temporary IR tag. And so I know Blake is doing everything he can to get back with his guys up front there as soon as possible. And then as far as I know, in regards to Brian, it was not a full tear. It was not a full Achilles injury, but it was an injury that did require it being repaired. So timelines I really don't have at this point, but my understanding is he should be able to make a full recovery and be ready and hopefully available to start next season.
Ben and then Matthew.
Yeah, Kevin, when you address the team and you have guys that are kind of going through this and getting ready to play a game again on Sunday, from your experience, kind of talking to them or even thinking through things like this as how you would respond to it as a player, how difficult is it to go back out there knowing the last thing you saw was what happened to Damar Hamlin on Monday night?
Yeah, I think, Ben, it's really important that we understand a couple things, that not all players will deal with this the same. Some players may, I know for a fact, either have a college relationship with Damar or recently as last year were a teammate of Damar's that now play for us. So that might be a different feeling for some guys directly. And then I just think in general, it's very important that as coaches and definitely I've told our players multiple times since Monday, my door is open. Come talk to me. Come talk to not only me, but the resources you have available to you from professionals that can provide some of the things that you may be looking for as you process, both your feelings currently and moving forward. I think it's just important to provide as much as we can for our players while also being very aware and understanding of where they're at from a mental standpoint and emotional standpoint, as well as their families. I think is very important too.
Hey, Kevin, just with Brian O'Neal, sorry, I jumped the gun there. With Brian O'Neal, just, it seems like he's just become one of the premier players at his position. I guess from your perspective, what is missed and what is the hardest place to make up with his play?
Yeah, I think the hardest thing is just understanding he was such a kind of a pillar of consistency for us all year. Even at times when, as an offense, we've had a lot of very, very strong outings and high moments, but even during some of the moments where we weren't at our best, Brian was still so consistent for us in his role. I totally agree with you as far as his standing in the league at his position. And I just think it's going to be a hard thing to replace, especially that consistency. But what I've kind of challenged some of our guys is understanding the standard that Brian set at that position, and what we can work to try to do to make sure that we do our job and get in there, whether it's Ole or Blake or anybody else here moving forward, to make sure they get in there and understand the responsibility, but also the confidence we have in those guys. They wouldn't be here if the expectation was that if their number was called upon, that they wouldn't be ready. Those guys will be ready to go. Ole showed that the other day, stepped in a tough spot, and now he gets a week of prep, on the grass to prepare and hopefully build on that performance from the other day.
Yeah, Kevin, you mentioned the things that are available to players and coaches and staff people. And I know it's just the first day that everybody's been back in the building, but what's your sense about how people are doing and processing that, and maybe even yourself in that regard?
Yeah, I can speak personally and say it has been a process, just understanding how much we care for these players and how much we pour into these guys on a daily basis. It's about the football, Kevin, but it's also about the relationships you make, learning about their backgrounds and just the special human beings that, play in this league on every team. And then you start hearing about the relationships team to team, the past relationships that they have with players around the league, coaches around the league. And you start to really feel this brotherhood thing is a real thing. Despite it being professional football and so competitive, you just feel the emotion of it. And it's been a process for me, just thinking about how I would, not only talk to the team, but also just my own personal emotions towards it, and having watched it and watched those coaches and those head coaches be, how, they were able to handle themselves in such, difficult circumstances and show leadership and decision making and making sure that the right decisions were made in that regard, and then what was best for their team. And they'll continue to do that moving forward. But like I said, total credit to Zach and Sean in a very difficult circumstance. And then for our players, Kevin, I just think it's important each and every one of them feels on an individual basis that whatever they need that we can actually provide and help, I want that to be readily available to them, as well as just the ability to come sit down and have a conversation and talk about things together. And I wanted them to know that I'm processing it and working through it as much as I know they probably are as well. So there's really no easy way to, just snap your fingers and make things better. There's just the prayers and the thoughts and the hope that we're going to get some news sooner rather than later. And then we can all continue to progress in our, processing of what took place on Monday.
We'll do last two questions, last 2 minutes with Randy and then Chris.
Yes, Kevin, with the injuries on your offensive line, how is Garrett Bradbury progressing this weekend? Is he a possibility to play?
He is progressing, and the hope is at some point soon we'll be able to get him back some limited practices and then work his way into full participation before we get him back. It's to be determined what that looks like for this week. Still early on in the week here, but the hope is that we do get Garrett Bradbury back on our offensive line soon.
Yeah, Kevin, on the difficult situation involving Hamlin, I know Patrick Jones was his teammate at Pittsburgh, Harrison Phillips, Buffalo. Does anybody else on the coaching staff or players have a close relationship with him, or maybe worked him out coming out of college for the draft or anything along those lines?
Yeah, I think not to speak out of turn on exact specifics, but I do think there are others. And then just in addition to that, I know teammates on that team that are going through that, coaches that I've talked to from both Buffalo and Cincinnati. There's a lot there, and I just think it's important that we all, as we understand how it's affected us personally, we all understand how important it is to continue to come together, not only in support of Damar, but of his family, the Bills organization, and really everyone that was directly affected Monday night. But I know Pat Jones being a college teammate, and Harrison Phillips, a professional teammate last year in Buffalo. It's been very important to reach out to those guys and make sure that not only myself and our coaching staff and teammates, in that locker room downstairs understand, that it's pretty unique for them, as well.
Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah, thanks.